Hey, this is Mark Henry, author of Dancing with Energy, Healing, Magic, and Mysticism. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the magician and magic. And what does it mean to be a magician? Well, if you were to look at the dictionary definition of magician, it would say something along the lines of one who practices magic. And yet, according to my definition of magician, a magician is much more than just someone who dabbles in magic, more than just somebody who is an occasional spellcaster. A magician is someone who lives it and not just practices it. It's someone who tries to live a magical life rather than just use it as a tool occasionally. And what I'm going to also do is I want to show you from the Rider Waite deck, one of the most popular decks that came out a few hundred years ago, that kind of talks a little bit about the magician through its symbology. So I'm going to do that right now. Let's see if I can show you this. Okay. So I want you to notice a couple things. One is the infinity symbol over his head. Also, you notice that he has one arm up with his wand and one hand pointing down. You also see that he's wearing a white shirt with a red robe. And on the table, you'll see 4 different items. You'll see a pentacle, a cup, a sword, and a wand. Of course, there's some other things. There is the yellow background and the flowers and things. So keep those things in mind while I kind of explain more a little bit about what all this means. Because this tarot deck was derived from the ceremonial magic, the Order of the Golden Dawn, different magical order of its day. So let's begin with the magician card of the tarot, the Rider Waite. So first of all, if you notice on the table, they had the pentacle, they had the sword, they had the wand, and they had the cups. So all of those different things represented an element. For example, the pentacle represented the element of earth, cup, water, sword, air, and wand was fire. These are the elements that make up the universe, make up nature. You'll find it in many areas of occultism, especially in witchcraft, Wicca, and even the earliest forms of magic, because there needed to be an understanding of nature and what makes up the universe, and this is what came to people. So the magician is able to command these elements, fire, earth, air, and water. And you command them in order to express their magic in whatever outcome they choose. Now you notice there was an infinity symbol on top of his head. So infinity symbol means that the magician commands the infinite power of the universe. Infinite meaning the force of the universe that is without beginning and without end. So this is commentary on being able to use the spiritual energy of the universe in order to exert his will. Okay, the third thing is he had one hand up, which, if you were a Christian, it would be like pointing towards the heavens. Okay, this can be also symbolic of pointing towards the astral, the ether. It could be pointing towards enlightenment. And he's also pointing down. So, Christian pointing to hell, I guess. But it's mainly, in my mind, pointing downward towards the earth, towards the materiality of the cosmos, of being here and present on earth. So if he's pointing up with a wand, and he's pointing down with his hand, well, what does this mean? What he's saying is that he's using the wand to direct his energy to the heavens, which can also rain down an effect on the physical plane. In Hermetism, they call this, or Hermeticism, if I'm saying it right, what that basically says is as above, so below. So when we're casting spells and we're doing our magic, it's that it's having an effect in the ether, the astral world, and that is coming down in manifestation on the physical world. It's also showing kind of a balance between the two, that they are interconnected, as above, so below. It also, pointing upward, is also, I think, symbolic of I'm doing magic to create an external effect, and I'm pointing down, which can represent me also doing magic to change myself and my own internal landscape. And that how these two things are connected by the magician. They're not separate, as above, so below. So what's external is also connected to internal. When I change myself, I can change the world. When I work to change the world, it affects me. You'll find this in other types of influence. You'll find, just kind of a more mundane example, is that sometimes females, what they'll do is they will do something external to themselves in order to make themselves feel better. So they'll put on makeup because it makes them feel pretty. They may do some type of plastic surgery, breast augmentation, in order to change how they feel. Now, on the other end, people may say, hey, why don't you develop your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and you won't worry about necessarily how pretty you are, or you would feel better about yourself. You wouldn't need to wear so much makeup. I'm not here to debate that or comment on that either way, but I just want to illustrate that is an example, in a way, of the connection between the external and the internal, especially in our psychology. Next thing, the robes, the dress. So we're talking about appearance. So I noticed that they had a white shirt, and then they had the red robes. So what does white represent? It represents, purity. It represents spirituality, balance. And then you had the red robe, which is more force, power, assertiveness. So when you have both of those together, what you're saying is that the white is balancing out the more, I guess, for lack of a better word, aggressiveness, power, force of the magician. Now, both are needed, but each kind of keeps the other in check. So that's my interpretation of the tarot card of the magician. You also, I forgot one more thing, is that the yellow background, I believe, represents enlightenment. That ultimately what the magician is doing is improving themselves, improving the world, using the elements, and when they can kind of do that, it all comes together in a state of perfection, enlightenment, and that is the ultimate goal. And that's not to say that everybody does this, but it's almost like, okay, so the magician card, this is what the archetypal magician is, optimally, ultimately. This is what the magician should be aspiring to. Okay, that's basically the magician card. Now, my own personal beliefs, some additional things that I believe a magician should be a part of or should do. I think that a magician should look for signs and omens in nature and his environment as signs about how his magic is doing. This can be done through divination, maybe like a reading, tarot reading, I Ching, pyromancy. Sometimes you can look at fire. The magician should also use magic to change himself. I think I mentioned that. A magician should do both high and low magic. And I guess you could interpret the card to mean that too, which would mean the high magic would be, okay, I'm reaching for transcendence. I'm reaching towards, I believe what the Golden Dawn specified as a conversation with your holy guardian angel. Or low magic, which would be more like real world practical magic, money, love, success. Both are needed. If you are too far into the high magic, you might be living kind of a very blissful, enlightened life. Maybe even not even blissful, but you might be living in squalor, not having any money, maybe not living to your full potential and receiving the pleasures of life in general. I believe that magicians should develop relationships with non-physical entities in order to bring about their outcome, whether that be spirits, ancestors, nature spirits, angels, whomever. When you can develop those types of relationships, they can greatly enhance your magic and can greatly influence your world in a positive direction. And that's basically it. I just want to share my thoughts on magic and the magician. So I hope that you all look for the magic in your life, and if you do not see it, then I hope that you can create it. I will talk to you later. Please subscribe and like.